Media participants, a very good morning to one and all present here. I am Meenakshi, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Application, SRMISD, Vadapaini campus. Respected faculty members and research scholars, today is the second day of FDP on recent trends in research. It gives an immense pleasure to introduce and welcome today's resource person, Dr. N. Mogana ma'am. Dr. Mogana ma'am is working as an assistant professor in Vellore Institute of Technology, Chennai. She is MSc, MPhil, and PhD and got distinction in MSc Mathematics. She is having 13 years of teaching experience. She published many papers in different research journals and conferences. She acted as a guest lecturer and resource person in various colleges and universities. Today, ma'am is here to give the lecture about R for machine learning and data analytics. Welcome, ma'am. I request all the participants to make use of this session. Thank you. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Anita and Dr. Mohana Sundaram for inviting me for a lecture on R for machine learning and data science. And I want to thank management for giving me an opportunity to share my knowledge with all you people on machine learning with the coding part in the R programming language. So shall I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Hope you many people are belong to the computer science department, so that you all know all the basics of what the machine learning and other things and all. Maybe better than me. Since I belong to the mathematics division, I was just started working with the to explore many things in R programming. That is what I have chosen the machine learning to perform in R. So in that way only, I have learned many things here for performing the coding part of the machine learning concepts. So as you all very well known about the machine learning, that is good the structure which is going to be happen for learning the data, and then the program can be getting it from the machine. Okay, so usually we will be the programmer and the machine will give us an output according to the process what we are insisting. But the machine learning is a concept, is just a reverse process, that once if we are training the data, then the machine will produce the corresponding coding of it. Okay, so in that way, how the R programming is going to be built with getting all the idea behind the machine learning things and all, we are going to looking for right now. So you all very well known that, right? So of course it is the thing, we are going to do the data. Since overall we are scattered around the data, wherever you are, you can manipulate one data, right? So through that data, our understanding is how I can understand the data according to its nature without looking at everything explicitly. Okay, so we will be getting a minute idea of what the data would be. Now our programming will be giving an extended output that how the data has been scattered and how the nature would be, all those things we will be visualizing at the very basics, right? And here how the meshes are going to be involved in this kind of programming to understand or to study the data's nature. Okay, so this is actually the traditional program what we had it in a very 10 to 15 years back. But nowadays, after introducing the machine learning, the concept being inbuilt as If you're just giving the data and output, then the machine will be learning according to the nature of the data, and it will be programming that how the way the data can be executed. So these are the different aspects of what kind of the data science would be inbuilt in the machine learning. So if you know the data, you can, of course, we may be finding the how we are collecting the data, how we are going to preparing the data for a further execution, and what kind of algorithm we will be using for understanding the data or getting an output for the data, and how the way we are going to testing the model and training the model, and through which how the way we are going predicting in future that what kind of things could be happen if the same scenario it with respect to the scenario of what data we are taken, and then further we are going to implementing it in future that according to the nature of the data, how would be the remaining implementation on the particular data set. So this is the overall structure of how the machine learning is applicable in the data science. So as you all very know about what kind of a learning is there. So basically it was 3 learnings, the supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement. And the semi-supervised is a one more subclass we taken as a subset of, it is a combination of both supervised and unsupervised. Okay, so what is meant by supervised learning? Training a data including the desired output. It means all the data will be explicitly given along with the labels or whatever the things you needed will be explicitly given. Okay, so through which we need to understand the data, you can train the data and all, and you will be easily predict that what kind of things would be happen if you are going to finding out in future that what is the nature would be, right? All these things you can find out using the supervised learning. And for the unsupervised learning is the data would not be that much explicit, right? Only the output and all, that even we do not know that what kind of an output will be coming because the label will be an absent. Okay, so labels will not be given. So without having any label, without knowing what that particular data would be, we may be predicting as an assumption that what would be our desired output. Okay, but that the output would not be an exact one. Okay, but in the supervised learning, it will be an exact understanding and the prediction be happen. But in unsupervised learning, the assumption would be taken care. And similarly, the semi-supervised learning. In semi-supervised learning, so both the labeled one and the unlabeling things are all will be mixed up, making use of that how the way we are going to training the data and get the desired output. And the next is a reinforcement learning. This is what exactly the reinforcement learning, you know, we are learning through mistakes. Okay, so we will be doing the program and all the algorithm, whatever you do it for the particular data set, and the output you are getting after execution, you know, in that output, you may be easily identify that, okay, this is a mistake we got it, this is an error we got it, why this is happening. So all those things, it is very short. I can say that in reinforcement learning is we are understanding through mistake, right? We are learning through mistake. That is actually your reinforcement learning. Right. So this is a very elaborated way of, the brief way of what is a supervised learning. That it is a prediction for an object, and it is totally depends on the labeled data, right? The unsupervised learning is for the unlabeled data, and for the semi-supervised learning, we are going to getting the data contained both with the labeled one to get a desired output. And right. This is a reinforcement learning. It is a performing action after seeing your result. Okay, so this is a brief structure of what the types of machine learning would be. And this is the model, how the way you will be executing and how the way the particular supervised learning will be working. I think this you can easily understand the execution process, that training the data would be there and the label also will be given, and the data would be given after taking the feature vectors, and then the machine learning algorithm will be built up. Okay, so this is an execution for that. But for the unsupervised learning, see, my labels are missing here. Okay, so without having any label, then how the way the vectors will be generated, and accordingly the machine learning algorithm will be built, and then the model can be executed, and finally we are getting the likelihood, right? It is not an exact one, it will be an approximated one, or it can also be called it as a likelihood, the way of how the data has been scattered, or how the nature of the data would be. And this is a very nice example of you can easily understand that what kind of a classification would be there in the learning types. Okay, so this is actually the supervised learning. So here it is explicitly given that these are all one category, and there's a plus sign is there. No, so this is one category, and star is a one category. I can easily split it as classified way. Okay, and in the similar way, it is an unsupervised. See, I do not know anything about what category it would be, because everything looks similar, right? Because it doesn't have any label. So what I can do, just like that, I can understand that those are all the raw data, then I can grouping it in a raw manner. Okay, so for the semi-supervised learning, so all the things will be mixed up. Okay, accordingly we need to fix it with what kind of a classification it would be, right? So it is for the semi-supervised learning. So these are the methods we can use it for the machine learning algorithm. What are all the methods we are doing it here? That supervised learning, we have a different methods. A few of the methods I'm going to executing it in the R programming, and I'm going to show it to you the output of how the machine learning algorithm works in R programming. And similar way, the unsupervised learning. Then the performance of the machine learning algorithm is, of course, every algorithm, there would be some advantages and disadvantages. But what are all factors would be affecting the performance of the machine learning algorithm would be the availability of the data, and the type of algorithm, what you're going to using it, and what kind of a training you're going to giving it for the particular data set. And accordingly, the level of feedback we are going to providing it, it depends on whether it is an exact prediction, or it can be an the likelihood prediction. All those things will be an affecting factor of the performance of algorithm, that is a machine learning algorithm. But the main factor is we are going to train the model, and finally we are going to get an optimized result. Okay, so these are all the OR packages and the functions I'm going to using it. A few of the things I'm going to executing it here. Before moving on to the execution in the programming, like hands-on training, I just wanted to know the participants that how much the basics you really know in the R programming. So just for that, I just wanted to give you a very small quiz here. Can I proceed like that with your permission?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You can.
Yeah. So I'll just make one small quiz just to understand that the participants' knowledge. Okay. So whether you know really the basics or how much you know, accordingly, I may proceed with the other things. Okay. So I'll just post it in the chat box, the link.
Yes, participants, the chat box is active.
Yeah.
You can
Just one.
just post all the answers in the chat box.
I'll just give it to you the. Yeah, please log into this, and it will be asking you the PIN. Kindly please give this PIN. Kindly log into kahoot.it. Yeah, good. So nearly 250 participants are there. I'm expecting at least 50 to join. No need to explicitly give your name. You can put your nickname or whatever it is. Okay, I think.
Participants, you can join here so that we can make this section interactive.
I'll wait for 1 more minute. Okay, maybe others are hesitating to do it. It is just to understand the thing, whether I need to start with very basic coding, because just like that, looking at some coding madam is executing and some output we are getting, then the session is get over. Instead of that, we can learn at least very minimum for our further research or something, right? That is what I planned. Okay, I don't want others to wait. I just start right now. '26. Fine. Okay. Very good. Good. Yes. Out of 10, you have given very good answer. Oh, 7 people don't know the basics of it. Okay, fine. If you really know the concepts of the basics of R, then you can answer. Very good. Good. The majority. If you really know the installing the package, and this is very, very necessary to invoke the package. Great. Right? Library command we'll be using for invoking the package. Good. The next. Hope you know the summary command, right? So what are the results would be coming in the summary command in R basket? Very good. Nice. Yes, this is enough. So just for who are all actively participated, just for them, I'm just showing this. Shali, and who is the Manu? Yes. Anyway, well, congratulations and thank you so much for your presence. Right, I'll stop here. Okay. Right. So now we are going to discuss about what kind of packages we are going to do. Actually, for in R, we have millions of packages available. Okay, but out of which I was just collected with a few number of packages for specifically the machine learning concepts. But actually, out of this, we have millions of packages available. So here for the clustering, we are going to using with the different packages like in FPC, cluster, PV cluster, M cluster, all those things, and partitioning based clustering also available. It's a very famous one is a K-means cluster. Hierarchical clustering also there in the machine learning concept where H cluster and PV cluster, AS and Diana, all those things are used. Similarly, the model-based clustering, density-based clustering, plotting cluster solutions and violating cluster solutions. So those are all, these are all the very minimum things I have just enlisted here. But we have a variety of packages available for the machine learning set. And similarly, so the previous one for the clustering and this is for the classification, right? So here the package is a very important package is the part, okay, R part or party kit, any one you can choose it out of it. A party also it is available. Party kit was available in particular version, then after that it's been revised and given in party is a package. So okay, this is a package I'm going to use it very beginning for giving the classification and all. And the random forest we have. Out of that, we have the decision trees available in C tree, a random forest package also available. And for the regression, I think the last day, that is yesterday's session, the first resource person has given a very nice explanation of what the regression model would be. What is actually the regression? What kind of a regression exists? Can please use the chat box and can you please be interactive sometime? What is mean by regression? What is the use of regression first of all? Yesterday, sir was given a very nice class, very nice explanation for it. I really enjoyed it. Yes.
Yes, participants, the chat box is open. You can put the comments.
Yes, please. I'm just expecting. No, what is the use of regression? Very good. Yes, it is for the prediction. Okay, it's a prediction. Why do you need to predict? Because something I don't know exactly. Okay, if I wanted to say you mathematics, because I belong to mathematics, so that I just wanted to tell you what is the actual idea behind the prediction is. I think if you're really listening the class, the last session, I think you would have get a very good idea of what regression. If I have the data scattered, which is in a two-dimensional view, right? What two-dimensional means if I have 100 data means first data, the second data, like that you will be viewing the data. Okay, so now data has been scattered. Now you need to understand that I have 100 data only. Okay, what may be the 250th data in the same nature? So it is a prediction. Okay, so that I really don't know what is it, right? Any number, any value can be there, but I'm just predicting. I'm just assuming that what made the value in 250th position. Okay, how the way I can predicting using with the existing data, and I'm just going to manipulate the general relationship using the relationship, and I'm just going to predict that if this is a relation, you with respect to that relation, the same nature, the 250th data would be like this. So that is the way we are predicting it for the given data set. But we have two types of regression. Do you know what is that? What is two types of regression? Actually, sir has given 4 types of regression, right? But I'm asking you only for the 2. What, any 2? Can you tell me 2 regression? Yes, good. Yes, it is a linear and a multilinear. What is mean by linear? What is mean by linear? One example for linear. How do I know? What do I mean by only one input variable? Is it so? If it is only one input variable, then what may be the, I'll just, okay. See, can you give me one example for a linear relation? Suppose if I have only one input means I may be having this, yeah. So what is an input? My input would be X. So you are predicting that maybe your Y. Okay, but is it going to be only the linear? Is it only one out? Yes, it is called simple linear. Okay, if I have only one input, that means independent variable and this is an independent variable, or this is a target variable and this is another term sir has used in the last session. What is this? What is your X? Which is target and what is the X? Can you tell me? Yeah, anyone? X is an independent and Y is a, sorry, X is not a dependent, X is an independent and Y is a dependent variable. So that is the one they will be saying that Y is a target one, that the target one would be what our assumption would be, means what will be the approximate value would be. Okay, my target is to find out my Y with a given value of X. Okay, right. And what does mean by multilinear? I can get any number of, that is any number of variable you can have. Okay, that is, suppose it is AX plus B Z plus C. It's not only for, I'm restricting with only 2 independent. I can have a number of independent variable would be there. Only condition is mathematically I can say that the order or the power of variable should be 1. Okay, the power of the variable present here would be 1. Then only it is called as a linear. Okay, so simple, only 2 variable exist. Multi means any number of variable it can be, that's 2, more than 2 variables exist, means using that variable, how the way I'm creating a relationship with order 1. Okay, for all the variables, the order should be 1. So this is a understanding of the linear regression and the multilinear regression. Okay, right. So, and then I think, I hope you are all well familiar about the IRIS dataset, which is an inbuilt dataset in R itself. I'm just going to execute it in R right now. Okay, if you don't know much basics, I'll quickly give it to you a small execution here. So usually we will, is my screen visible clearly, or am I have to zoom further? Is it okay, or am I have to zoom a little bit?
Is it okay, ma'am?
Fine, fine.
Yes.
So now usually we will be assigning any, suppose I'm assigning x is equal to, if you wanted to random collect numbers between one number to the other number, means I can use sample as a command. Suppose if I wanted to collect from 10 to 100, 50 data if I'm collecting, or 20 data if I'm collecting, then this is my x. So it is a random collection. Okay, and you know all the basic commands in that is mean is an average. Okay, for that, next is a summary. A summary of x will be giving you a very nice output that which consists of all the basics outputs, like the minimum, maximum, median, mean, and the other two quartiles. Okay, and then the linear regression, I'll just let you know. Suppose if I have another sample, see, however the way you're going to finding out the regression part, both for x and y. Suppose if I wanted to relate with x and y, both x and y should have the same number of data. Okay, if unequal means the regression will not work. So should be same data. Sorry, same number of data. Okay, so same number of data I'm getting. So now I'm creating a different the set of data having 20 elements. Okay, now we are going to finding out how these data is going to be scattered. Okay, that I'm going to use a plot x comma y. So plot is a command we use it in R for plotting the graph. Okay, see, look at it. So this is the structure. Okay, this is the way my given data set has been scattered. Okay, so now making use of this data, I just wanted to create a line here, right? So that is called your linear line. Since I have only x and y, we are going to create only the simple linear line. Okay, so it's kind of a straight line. Fine. So what is the command I'm going to using it here? A linear model. LM is the command. Okay, linear model x on y. Do you know the understanding of x on y and y on x and all? Do you know that? I hope you know. If you don't, please ask me, then I'll explain you. So here I have taken LM of x on y, but we can have y on x also. So now then AB line of what does mean by x on y, you know, the output which we got it. See, if I'm giving f of x, what is the understanding? 1 minute, I'll just stop my video because my fine. Yeah, what is the understanding of this output? It is represented as a coefficients, right? Intercept is 33.738 and y, the coefficient of y is 0.895. Okay, I think somebody have responded. No. Okay, so what is an understanding? It is x, y means x is your target. Okay, it means x equal to 0.895 into v plus the set 33.73. So that is a linear equation. Okay, so that is the one we are executing through LM command. Okay, and similar way I can create it with y on x also. So now how the way I can plot it? See, AB line will be the coding. We are going to using it for visualizing the linear line on the existing plot. Okay, so AB line alone will not plot the line. AB line will be plotting the line only if you have the scattered plot ready. Okay, before plot should be ready, right? Then only the AB line will be replacing the line of whatever the relation is stored in LM. Okay, so this is the AB line. In the similar way, I may create it with y on x also. Only thing I need to change the order, and AB line of y on x. If I'm giving, I'll be getting another line. Okay, so the previous one is a y x on y, and now this is your y on x. Whichever is needed, you may proceed with. Okay, but how know that which one is needed for our prediction? It depends on your unknown. It depends on what is your target. Okay, suppose if you know y value, the target is to find out x value, means x on y will be the suitable one, or it will be giving you the better result than y on x. Okay, I cannot say that that is the only procedure. In y on x also you can find out the approximate x value, but your x on y will give you the better result than the other. Okay, in the similar way, y on x will be the suitable or the better procedure for finding y value with the unknown, sorry, with the known x value. Okay, so this is a concept of x on y and y on x. In the similar way, I can proceed it with the multiple regression also. It needs more than 2 variables, so that I'm generating another variable z with any range you can have, but number of data should be the same. 30 to 50, I'll take it. Okay, 40 to 50, I'll take it. And I wanted to proceed with the 20 elements. See, but I'm not able to execute the particular code. Do you know what is the error I made it? I purposely made it. Can you find out what is an error? I made it some error here. That is what it is not giving my z value. Anyone? What is an error I'm doing? Can you help me? Yeah, somebody have responded. Yes, 40 to 50, only 10 elements are there, 10 numbers are there, or 11 numbers are there, but I'm expecting for 20 numbers. But I don't want to change my mind. I need to get at 40 to 50, 20 numbers should be there, right? So how the way I can instruct the programming? How the way I can instruct the software? I'm not going to change my mind. I need 40 to 50, 20 elements are there. So what is the restriction I need to give? What is the condition I can propose? What may be the condition I can propose? Then I can get it more than 10 elements if range is very minimum. What I can do? Naturally you do. You have to. Yeah, decimal is one option. Again, of course, it's perfectly correct. Decimal is a one option. But again, I'm not changing my mind because I already generated my x and y are only the integers. Here also, I wanted to insist that you need to give only integer elements, integer numbers between 40 to 50, but I need 20. What we will naturally do? What we will naturally do? I'm expecting this. At that, I really don't know what is the garbage value. It's, you know, you can get it into an idea. What we usually do, 40 to 50, I have only 11 numbers. Yeah, but random, if you're choosing, a random will not give you Random also is one of the command I can use it, but random will not give you the integers. Random will give you the decimal values. Okay, so what we can do, can we allow the repetition? Right, that way I can generate more number of values. Right, so that is what here they have given, that the length of x is not that, right? So that we need to use replace when replace is false. Here the replace is false, so that one I'm going to changing it as a replace is true. That's all. The error message also will be giving you an idea that what you are actually looking at and what is the restriction you need to get. What you need to do, replace equal to either t or a true. Anything. Okay, now my set has been generated. See, look at it. I have repeated number of values. Okay, we have a repetition, but other two not necessarily to be repeated, because we have given by default replace is equal to false. Okay, one more thing I just wanted to inform you that in our software, many commands we are using, right? So we have, as I already mentioned, we have millions of commands exist, but all the commands, we have some default instruction, right? There will be some default instruction, right? So if you wanted to explicitly change it, then you need to call that particular one, then you need to change it that I do not want replace false, and I wanted to change it this one as a replace is equal to true. Like that you need to understand. Okay, so for every command there would be some default instruction. Okay, so depends on your need, you have to change it accordingly, the particular coding. So for that, each and every coding, you need to be a very clear understanding of what are the components that exist. Okay, right. In the similar way, the component of the sample is replace is one of it. In that one, by default, it is false. That is what it is not working. So that I'm giving replace is equal to true. Okay. So now, if I want to perform with is that, if I want to find an is that value, depends on your x and y value, means we will be doing again the linear, because it is a linear only. That is, suppose is that I'm going to fixing it as a target on with respect to the variable x and y, means you have to give x plus y. Look at it. So I got it. Is that is equal to minus 0.0358 into x minus 0.03796 into y and plus the intercept. Okay, so this is a relation. Okay, right. So do you know how to visualize the three-dimensional graph in R? Anyone? How do you visualize the these are all 2D. Plot will be plotting on the 2D graph. Do you know how to perform with the three-dimensional graph in R? Anyone? Okay, I'll let you know. So the package is called Scatterplot 3D. Okay, so you know how to install a particular package. Suppose if you wanted to install any particular package, first verify that whether the particular package is available in the version here itself, or if it is not there, then you need to go to install. Then here you need to type it here that what the 3D. Okay, so this is a package name. So if it is not there, means you can install. Okay, all the things will be there in the CRAN repository, so through which you are going to executing it and getting installed in a current working place. Okay, right. So this is your Scatterplot 3D. Scatterplot 3D is used for plotting a three-dimensional graph. Okay, so if I have already XYZ, right, I'll just use it with the Scatterplot 3D with XYZ. Okay, I did something wrong here. We couldn't find out. Okay, fine. I have already set X, and why? So XY 3D, fine. No, I think something wrong. Okay, this one I'll just clarify you later, because it is anyway it is successfully unpacked, but I don't know, there is some mistake here. XY, is it? Okay, I'll get to you later. Right. So Scatterplot 3D is one package which is used for three-dimensional graph. Okay. So this one I'll execute it maybe at the break time. Right. So the next one, I'm just moving to the machine learning concepts. So here I have taken a very known data set is an iris data set, because it has many classifications and it is very good example of if anyone is going to perform with the machine learning concepts, then this data set will be very, very useful. Okay, right. So you know about what the data set would be. That consists of 50 samples of the iris flower. Their sepal and petal length and width would be given, and correspondingly the species is also mentioned, like iris setosa and versicolor and virginica. Okay, this data set I think you already know about it. Next, just take it the structure. Okay, I'll just execute it in R itself. That okay. So now I'm just going to take the iris data set. Okay, simply you can just type iris in a console, then you may be easily getting it the data set here. Okay, right. So now, what is this STR? What is that STR? What does mean by STR? It is giving some output. What is that? What I can understand with STR? Anyone in the chat box? Yes, good. Thank you. The structure, right? It is giving you the basic structure of the data set. The structure consists of how many observations are there, how many variables are there, right? And what are all the different variables and their name and the categories which is given. All those things will be present in the structure. Okay. So here data frame, totally 150 observations exist with the 5 variables. The variables are sepal length, sepal width, petal width, and species. Okay. So that is the 5 variables, and the corresponding data also has been mentioned here, right? So this is about the structure of the data. Do you know this one, head of iris? What does mean by head? What the head is doing? What the head is doing? I'm simply giving head, that's all. Head of iris, the data set. What is doing? What does it mean by head? What is the default instruction? Good. It is starting 5 records. It's actually not 5, it is 6 records. Okay. If you're using a head of any particular data set, it will present you the first 6 data set from the overall data set. Okay, already I have executed with X, you know, I'll just take it head of X. X, I had 20 elements I took. Head of X is giving you only 6 elements here. Okay, then I think you can easily guess that how do I get the last 6 elements? How do I get the last 6 elements? Of course, it's very naturally would be, it is tail of it. Okay, and okay, head and tail is giving you how many the data set you needed. But the same using the head command, how do I get it? The first 10 rows. How do I get the first 10 rows? Any idea? It means I need to give in some more explicit instruction. That's all. What may be the instruction if I want to get the first 10 elements? Using head. And I'm saying head is the command, okay? Don't misunderstand. Yes. Pass in the parameter. How the way, sir, I can pass the parameter? I have head is a command. Okay. But head is giving you by default, as I already mentioned you, there should be some default instruction in every command. Okay. So in head, there is a default instruction 6 given. How do I change it? What can I do it? It is head of iris, comma 10. That's all. It means I'm giving some more instruction. Okay, so this is a way you can perform. If you wanted to take it any in between the numbers, the row vectors or the things will be there, the array command will be helpful. Okay, so the array, see, that is the one I have taken here. Suppose if I wanted to get it from 1 to 5, see, this is giving you 1 to 5. Suppose if I wanted to get it 20 to 25, this command will help us. Okay, that is head is giving you only the beginning part of it, and tail is correspondingly the last part of it. In between, if you wanted to get any particular data set as a whole from the number of variables presented, and the iris of the array command will be helpful. Okay, so here comma we have to give, then only it will be taking 20th row to 25th row with all the columns of data. Okay, so these are the things, and then we have attributes is another command. So this is an attributes. So what this attribute is giving it to you? What that attribute? Look at the output and let me know what that attribute is giving us. What are the kind of classes exist? Okay, the names of whatever the column vector you framed it and the respective name. And what kind of a class it would be? It is similar, like it is created like the first column sepal length, second column sepal width, like that only it is arranged, you know. So in what structure and what class the given data set would be, it is totally the data frame. Okay, and the row names we have given as 1, 2, 3 as a serial number. That's all. Okay, so this is about the attributes head. Okay, and if you wanted to get it from 1 to 10, if you wanted to mention, because if I give simply iris of 20 to 25, it is giving you from 20th to 25th rows for all the columns. Okay, if you wanted to find out a particular column, then you need to give an instruction here that iris 1 to 10 fine, but get only from the sepal length. Okay, so here the name you have to give it, or the labeling, how the way you have assigned there, that one you need to explicitly give it here. Okay, so that's the thing. And then the summary of iris will give you everything like mean, median, mode, the quartiles, minimum, maximum, everything for whatever the column vectors exist. Okay, so all the columns, the summary will be presented. Okay, next, if I wanted to table it, what is the meaning of table? Table means how many setos. I'm just taking the species because there only I have a different categories. So there you are going to get how many numbers, the kind of a frequency table. Okay, the table is really kind of a frequency table. So how many setosa are there, how many versicolor are there, and only the versicolor. Okay, so the command will give you the kind of a frequency table. You know about the pie chart, right? And then the histogram is a very famous one, and HIST is a command for visualizing the histogram kind of visualization for the given data set. And of course the plot I already mentioned. So this is the plot. See, here I have used like a dollar sign, you know. So this dollar sign is actually will be extracting a particular column, whatever the data set would be given. See, I'll just as for an example, I'll take it iris. Okay, this is my whole data set. The moment you just type the dollar sign, it will show you what all the possible columns are exist. Okay, so there you can choose whatever the one you wanted. Okay, so the dollar symbol is a very important one. It is for the extracting a particular from the overall data set. It's fine. Next, I'm just moving to the machine learning concept. I think so far the basics are clear. Next, I'm looking at the party command. As I already mentioned you that we need to use the party as a package, you know. Yeah, so all the things I have given here. This is the thing. Okay. First of all, I just wanted to take a decision tree. Okay, so the decision tree algorithm you know already. So of course we are going to using it with machine learning concept. We have to use something like a testing data and something for the training data. Okay, so that we always be given what was a percent of training data and the testing data given, that we need to mention. So for that, for a decision tree, we need to take a package which is called party. Okay, PRTY. It is the R programming is a case sensitive. You need to be very careful with the acts, right, and the case, right. So whether it is a all or lower cases or an uppercase. If there is any uppercase, you need to be take care of that. Otherwise, the package will not be getting installed if any one symbol is not matched. Okay, so here party is a package. So as I already installed it, but anyway, I'll let you know that install.packages. Now the package name is party. Party kit also there. Okay, it is already installed. That is the thing, it is showing as a message here. So if it is already there, then you can invoke it. Invoke means library. Okay, now your party package is right now ready to accept your input. Okay, whenever you are getting to a particular package, first you have to invoke the package, then you need to give a proper command where the package should be work. Okay, so now what I want to do, so a library is there. Just 1 minute. Yeah, so that I've already done it. Now we are going to setting the C. Of course, this is a mandatory for the given data set. And then what we are doing, a sample of 2, number of rows iris. Okay, the end row of iris. We have many number of rows, right? Out of it, we are going to take it from the iris data set that rows. Replace is equal to true. That I'll just explaining it to you after the execution. Now, what is IND? See, look at it. What it is doing actually. Let me know. What it is doing. It is a sample of 2. It means, what does that 2 represent? It is the number of classification or the labeling. Okay. Right. So all are waiting for the certificates. Fine. Good. So it is, I have 150 data, right? I have 150 data, and out of which, how the way I'm going to train the data. Okay. So when you're training the data, you need to give some labeling of it. Okay. So the labeling is here. So the two labelings I need to take it. It is a randomly taking it, the numbers, randomly assigning numbers according to what percentage you have given. As I already mentioned you, I just wanted to take 70% is the training data. 70. Yeah, 70 is for the training data, and testing data it would be 30%, you know. So there only, here I have given, yes. Okay, so here I have given in probability that the C of 70, 30 in terms of probability value 0.7 and 0.3. Okay, so this instruction will take care you. The overall data set I have 150. Out of 150, randomly 70% of the data will be classified as, be labeled as 1, and remaining the 30% of the data will be labeled as 2. Okay, so this is a instruction, and we are sample always doing the random. right? Sample always be doing random only. There is no particular order. It is not like that the first data would be 1, the second data would be 1, not like that. See, the same command, I'll just work once again. You will be getting the different ones. See, look at it. The first one, I have 4 ones and the next 2, but here it is 3 ones, 2. See, it's totally random. Okay. Whenever you're using the sample as a command, it will be taking every time the random collection. Okay. So this is the way I'm just going to train my data. And first of all, I've just labeled it, which are the things are going to be coming under the training and the testing. Okay. And the next we need to do with, as we already took, so what are all my trained data, and these are all my test data. So this I've just taken in a column data. Okay, so what are all my trained data? So that is along with the whole data set, I'm just going to collecting it. That is, whichever the things are there in IND1 as assigned, those rows and all will be collected and will be there in the trained data. And similarly for the test data, only 2 is the labeling part will be collected and will be stored it. Okay, and then I'm going to take it a prediction here. That is, the prediction is my formula. The formula I'm going to using it here. The species, I need to predict it with respect to the factors are sepal width, petal length, and petal width. Okay, they are given 150 data. Okay, out of which, suppose if I am having one flower, if I have the sepal length, the petal width, and all will be given, then what kind of a species would be? That is the prediction we are going to making it. So that is the formula I'm going to creating it, as very similar like in the relationship we made it the linear model, y on x and x on y, right? If I have more than one variable, means we always be doing with y on x plus z, like that I've given, the same way we are going to giving it. Which one will be the target? That means is going to be your prediction with respect to the independent factors. Okay, so that is the one in the formula I have given. So now the formula has been executed. Now the command for giving the decision tree is ctree is the command. Okay, ctree is available in party package. Okay, C tree is for the decision tree. Okay, so if you wanted to get into a decision tree, you should first make it as a formula. The formula consists of which is going to be your target and which are all your affecting factors. Okay, so those things should be there. On that only your decision tree will be worked. Okay, so C tree is a command, a C tree of my formula, the data set we are going to taking it from the trained data. Okay, so the trained data already we have taken as 70% of the trained data, so there it will be working. And now the decision tree, the data would be stored in IRIS C-tree. See, this is the way the condition things and all, it means the decision, it will be taking it as a random that out of this many observation, because 105, why it is 105? Because totally we have 150, but it is taken only 105. 105 only is there in my trained data, right? I'm going to taking it from the trained data, out of which we are going to classifying that the petal length is less than or equal to one particular value. Okay, and petal length is greater than 1.9 means then only you will be getting a tree, like, right? So the condition will be divided. Similarly, the petal width is less than or equal to 1.7, and if it is greater than 1.7, so those things will be automatically created when you're giving the formula. Okay, right. And then next, I'm going to doing it with the table values. How after doing with the formula, we are going to predicting it on the iris tree, only the species, because species is my prediction, right? Is going to be my prediction. So for this prediction, when I'm doing the formula on the iris C tree, okay, and your prediction would be the setosa 33, versicolor 33, and virginica we have 36. It means that why here it is a 2, 1 is given, there would be some deviation happens when you're doing with the trained data. Okay, as we already mentioned that prediction is only an assumption, an approximation. Okay, it is not 100% perfect all the time. Okay, so here the prediction, there is a slight changes is going to be happen only in the virginica and the versicolor. Okay, there only the two data has been maybe misplaced, or it is not coming into the perfect fit. All those things will be getting into the picture. Right, now I'm just going to plotting it. See, right, as I already mentioned, it is going to be related with the petal length and petal width according to less than or equal to 1.9 and greater than 1.9. How many data are there? And similarly for greater than means how many data are there, and with the probability values, and again which is going to be splitted like n equal to 35 and 37, and again with the corresponding petal width is less than or equal to 1.7 or greater than 1.7. So this is the decision tree. You are making it as a random. It is totally random with the trained data. Okay, anybody have any doubt to this?
Mohana ma'am,
Yes, yes sir.
shall we have a small break, ma'am?
Break.
Since
Yeah, sure sir.
we can have a small 5 minutes of break, ma'am. Then we
Sure.
can continue, ma'am.
Sure sir.
Okay. Participants, you can take a 5 minutes of break and join at approximately at 10:45. Sorry, 11:45 a.m.
Okay.
Thank you. Mohana ma'am, shall we start, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So this is about the decision tree. So use the party package, and C tree is a function we are using for executing the decision tree, the corresponding output of it. Okay. And this is a tree, what I have mentioned there. Right. And then we were plotted. Next, we are getting into the random forest. So random forest is also another classification in the machine learning algorithm. So there, the package we are going to using it as a random forest package, or we can use it. Forest is also another one. Okay, so any other one you can try to install. So hope you know how to install all the things. If it is already there in the CRAN, it automatically getting it in the package. See, look at it. Just quickly I'll tell you. If it is already existing in the particular version, what you are going to work, so you can type it here to that random forest. See, this is, if it is already there means it will be visible here. So you can understand, yes, it is there in our version, so that you can directly invoke the package and we can perform. Okay. Otherwise, if it is not there, you need to go to install. Right now, install from repository. Okay, so for every installation, the version you're installing, right, there should be a CRAN repository available. If it is already exists, then you can get the particular package from the repository. Okay, so you see it is coming here. So this one you can select it and you can install. Even in the CRAN repository also it is not available. Then again, you don't want to worry about it. That is, you need to download it from the repository separately. Just 1 minute. Yeah. So you have to choose. I'll take it here. Suppose if you have something like moments package in R, what you have to do? So there should be, this is a CRAN.R project. Okay, so all the packages will be available here. That is, this one you are going to getting it from the outsource. Okay, so you go to the CRAN package, the moments it is there. So look at it, there is a package source. Okay, this is a source package. So it can be the zip file or tar file. Okay, whatever it is, it will accept. So what you need to do, you need to download this. Okay, so it will be asking where to download. So you will be downloading this, and then you go to the R. Then you already click with the install. You know, so there by default it is a CRAN repository. Otherwise, the package archive file, right? Either it is a zip file or a tar file. So this one, if you're choosing it, then it will be directing you to where you have stored the particular package. Okay, so that one you need to choose and then you can install it, right? So no matter whatever the version you're going to using it, so no need to every time installing a new version. Okay, instead of that, you can get all the packages into your repository from the outsource. Okay, so this is the way of how you're going to installing it. See, already I have installed the random forest. Right, I have already installed. Now I'm getting into the package, that is by invoking the package using library command. Okay, kindly please observe here, random lowercase capital F, right? F-O-R-E-S-T. F is a capital letter. If it is a small letter means the package, you will be getting message that no package available. Okay, so those things you need to be very careful because it is a case sensitive. So you need to take care of it. Right. So the library of random forest means I'm just getting into the package. And then again, the previous one for the formula I used for the decision tree. Here also we need to have the formula, but in random forest, there we have used the C tree is a command. But here we need to use the same package name itself, the random forest, the species, which is approximately from the trained data and the number of tree, how many you needed, and the proximity true. What is mean by proximity? Anyone know about it? What is mean by proximity? Anyone? Can anyone share? What is mean by proximity? Here the proximity is true. Yes, exactly. Okay, it is kind of you're collecting the neighborhoods, okay, the distance. So usually in the prediction, what can happen, you're going to finding out the approximate distance, exactly, it's the nearness, okay? So how near it should be, okay? So for that only we are allowing the proximity true, okay? By default it is false. If you are allowing it is true, then you have to mention here. Okay, so now I'm executing with, and I've stored it, the result in the RF. Then you wanted to print RF, then you will be getting the output like this. See, this output is giving you an information about the data. So the number of trees I have allowed, the type of random forest is, of course, it is a classification, right? And the number of the variables, how many variables were there? How many things I have classified? Two classification. No? One is 70% and one is a 30%. Which has ones and twos, okay? That is the one it is showing it here. And OOB estimate, what is OOB? Out of bag, okay? So out of bag estimate error rate means for this particular data set, when I'm doing the classification, I'm getting 4.76% error rate is allowed, okay? It is giving you the result with this much error. Okay, so that is the information you are getting. Whether you are considering this observation or not, it is totally your wish. Suppose if you are performing with some other algorithm, if you are getting the error rate is less, then you can go for it. So that time you may conclude that, okay, maybe random forest, the particular data set is not that much suitable for getting into the better prediction. Okay, so that way you can understand and you can proceed further. Okay, then where actually the error is happening, one I have already executed in the table, so you got it 32, 33, 35. It should be fitted for all the things, but I got deviated here that the versicolor virginica, we have some deviation. Similarly, the versicolor here the deviation would be 3. Because of this only we are getting the error. So we got it the class error also. See, in the Setosa, I have totally fixed with all the Setosa so that I don't not have any error, right? So here only we have the error rate because it is a 2, so that we have 0.58 something, and here I have 3, so that my error rate is a little bit more. Okay, so accordingly the class error also will be visible in the random forest. Okay, so hope you can understand the concept. Right. So this is about the random forest classification. So that's the one I have represented here. Suppose if you're unable to getting it from the coding part, you can look at the PPT, you can understand. Okay, so this is the table of what the random forest, the data would be, and out of which we are finding the output along with the class error. Okay, along with the class error. Okay, fine. And the next one, I think you are all very familiar with the regression. I already explained about the linear one, right? So the linear one, in the same way only we are given here. But actually in the linear model, we have many things. That is a simple linear model. We have generalized linear regression, and we have non-linear regression. What is the package is needed, the function what we will be using. Here it is a GLM. LM is for the simple linear regression, and NLS is for the non-linear regression. Okay, so this is the one I'm going to giving it to you for understanding the linear regression. That one I think I already taken from the raw data set, and I just shown you where the regression line will be plotted in the given scatter plot. So here I have taken another example, that is linear regression, which is demonstrated in the Australian CPI, the consumer price index is the one inbuilt data set. So in that, making use of that data set, we are finding that what may be in 2011 the consumer price index would be. That is a prediction, right? So that is the one we are using with the LM command. So we are giving, I'll just execute it and show it to you, because I just wanted to tell you one thing in the plot, the component. Right. So this is the year I have taken. So year is between 2008 to 2010. Okay. Something like I have given each is equal to 4. Okay. I'll just execute it the output. Please let me know what is that REP and what is each equal to 4. See, it is very similar like the sample, you know. Sample will be giving you the random collection. Okay, sample will give you automatically, everything will be random, right? If you keep on just like that executing the same code of sample, you will be getting different output as a random. But here I have used something like REP. What is that REP represents? If you really wanted to know about what the particular command would be, what you can do here itself, you can go to the help REP. That's all. It is a replication. Okay, so REP is for the replication. So what is the replication is needed? The year is from 2008 to 2010, and each 4 means 4 times it should be repeated. Okay, so 4 times the years would be repeated. 2008 4 times, 2009 4 times, and 2010 4 times. Okay, and similarly the quarter I need to take it in the same length. Okay, it means the 2008 in the first quarter, how much is the price index? In 2008, the second quarter. See, this is another way of generating the data set on your own. Right? If the data set is not available, you may understand the length and the range what they are giving. Accordingly, you yourself generate the data set in a different way. So here, year and quarter I'm taking, and now this is the actual CPI they have given. Okay, now I'm going to plot this. So this is my scatter plot, and then axis I'm going to choosing it here. Okay, where is it? This one, not axis. The plot I have done, and next I have done it with the axis. Usually, I think you all know about the plot command. It is plot of x comma y, like that you will give, you know. So I'll just take it. Already I took x and y, right? I'll just take it plot of x comma y. Okay, so this is the plot that I have already generated the random collection from 20 to 100, you know. So that is the one we are taking. And then if you wanted to labeling it as my x values and the y values correspondingly, means suppose my x value is the student 1 and y is student. Suppose if you wanted to give it an explicit view of what this plot or what this graph would be, I have to give it like label. Okay, x label is equal to, but previously I didn't mention anything like a label, but it is by default taking x is a label, y is a label. It is by default. Okay, whatever the name we have assigned for the data, it is automatically labeling it in the axis. If you want to change it something, then you need to give it like x label is for student 1. Okay, and y label is whichever the non-numeric number you're giving, that will be understanding as a character. So character always be there in the either the single quotes or the double quotes. Okay, see, now the label has been changed. Okay, accordingly you may give the title for the graph. Do you know how to give the title? Main. Okay, main is the component. So main is maybe students marks. See, okay, so we have the default instruction would be available in plot. If you wanted to change something in the for your visualization, means you have to change it accordingly. See, look at it. What is a change of the plot, what I have used it right now, and the one I have already used it for CPI? What is a change you're finding? Can anyone observe and tell me? something I have introduced here. X label, Y label is there, right? But something I have introduced here. What does mean by this? What is mean by this? That is x-axis text. Okay, x-axis text. Suppose I am just removing this. Okay, I'm just removing this. Now I'm going to execute it here. See, look at it. Right? It means the Y label, CPI, yes, it is there. And X label, I didn't labeling it anything, but you are visualizing the numbers, yeah? Right? So the numbers are ranging from 1 to maybe 12, right? So that is the one they are taken as a number. Okay, what this number represent? Can anyone tell me? Because this is a CPI. Dots are all representing CPI. The CPI range is from 160 to 174. What is this 1 to 12? What is this 1 to 12? That is the position of each and every data. 162.2 is the first position. 164.6 is the second position, right? So if you're not giving any explicit X value, it will automatically take it position of the numbers. Okay. If you have 15 numbers, by default, the X-axis will be taken the range 15. Okay. So here, I do not want to know, or I do not want to place that what the you are 2, 4, 6, 8 and all. But instead of that, what I need to give, this 162.2 is for 2008 in the first quarter. That I want to represent. Okay. The 12 values are there, you know. So that one, I need to label it as, just for our better understanding, 2008 is the first element. Yeah. So this is for the year, and which quarter it is? The first quarter. The value is 162.2. So how I can visualize it? But here the visualization, I really don't know. If I don't know anything about your data set, if I'm just like that, simply giving this graph, no one understands what it represents. Okay, they can understand that what is CPI and what is the scatterness. That's all. Okay, so if you wanted to explicitly give that first value is for the year 2008 for the quarter 1, that is what we are giving here. The X text, X-axis text. Okay, but what N, you know, N is no. N for no. Okay, in X label, even if I'm not giving X-axis text, X label will be there representing the number of positions. Okay, the number of values are there in a particular data. This one also I just wanted to navigate. It means I need to give an instruction in the plot that you have X label, but please remove all the values which is present there in the axis, because I wanted to label it in a different way, that in the axis labels equal to pasting the year, quarter and the separator. This is a separator. Okay, the separator is equal to Q, because Q represents the quarter. Yeah, so that is the one I'm giving, or the values between 1 to 12. Okay, and LAS. Do you know what is LAS? Do you know what is LAS? Anyone? So all are expecting the certificates. So whenever I'm opening the chat box, they are asking for certificates. Okay, fine. Right. So I just executed. You please understand what is the way we are getting. See, look at it. I'm able to see my graph, but it was actually replaced it. I'll just once again, I'll delete it, everything. If you wanted to delete this, you can just sweep it up. Okay. Now I'll just execute it. CPI, sorry, unexpected symbol. Where is it? CPI with the N. What happened? X-axis with a null, Y label, plot in Y label. Fine. Have I given anything here? No. This is my CPI. Okay. Then we are giving X label and Y label. Yeah, here comma is missing. Right. So now you're getting a plot and then we are giving an axis. Okay, see, look at it. I do not have 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, right? I do not have 1 to 12, the label. I have given like 2008, the quarter 1. This is a value for 2008, quarter 2. See, this is a way I can fit my graphs. Okay. And then we need to create a relationship between the year and the quarter, you know. So once you know that what will be the price index if I am having in 2022, the first quarter, means you have to create a regression model. That is comparing with the CPI. My target is to find out my CPI with respect to the year and the quarter. Okay, so this is a fitting. So fit, you will be getting what is the coefficients and the intercept. Okay, so here the 3.88 into whatever the year you're going to calculating it, plus 1.67 into whatever the quarter you're going to looking at, and then minus 7644.488 is an intercept. So that will give you an approximate CPI for the given data set. Okay, so this is the one. And if you, yeah, so next I just wanted to, the scatter plot only is not working for me. I just wanted to clarify this one later. So this one is a relationship. Okay, what I'm actually doing is, yeah, if I wanted to find out at 2011, so you need to get it all the coefficient, because when you're doing the LM, it won't be creating like an equation, right? You need to make it as an equation. It will be giving you only these are the coefficients or the unknowns. That's all. Okay. You need to create an equation that year into 3.888 plus 1.67 into the quarter plus that is minus 7644. That is the one we need to create. Okay. So that is the one that I have created here. In the fit, I have collected the coefficients in the first position. So this will be always be storing like an array. Okay, in this array, I'm going to taking the first value. The first value is an intercept plus the second value into the year. Okay, the year is 2011. I need to calculate and then fit the coefficients of the 3. 3 is for the quarter, the coefficient. Okay, into 1:4. Okay, so according to the quad, because quad is separated as 4, you know, so that is what we have given. So now if you want to find out the CPI 2011, we are getting these 4 values in each and every quarter. Okay, so in 2011, the first quarter would be this. In second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. Okay, so this is a way we are understanding the data through a linear model. Next, so you know about all the correlation, regression part and all. So next is coming into the clustering. Okay, so clustering is a very famous concept in the machine learning algorithm and even in the visualization process. So the clusters, you know very well. I think I don't want to explaining it and making you to bore, right? So here the same iris data set I have taken. Only thing here, k-means, but here the k-means is not a package. K-means is the general function. Okay, k-means is a function, it's not package. The k-means is the function we are going to using it on the output, sorry, the input, the data set, and you will be getting the different classification. See, it's very simple, very, very simple. That is go to the, I'll just take it the iris. Okay, so this is the one I'm taking. K-means, I have used the K-means as a function, that is a command on the new iris. 3. What does mean by 3? We need to have 3 classifications. Okay, so that is the one we are mentioning here. So now we have KC. See, look at it. We have KC. See, the previously in the random forest and the decision tree. Yeah, decision tree we took 2 classifications. No, it is depend on trained data and the test data. But here I need to classify the whole data into 3 as a random. Okay, so see here all the 150 data has been randomly chosen and labeled as 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what are the components available here? You know, you can find out what is a cluster, centers, the what is it? TOTSS. Anyone knows about it? TOTSS. Between us, within us. What is that? TOT. You are all very familiar with concept of classification. The clustering. You know. What is the TOTS? Total sum of squares. Okay, so that is the total sum of squares. So total sum within the classification. Between us, the size, iteration, and I value with the default one. Okay, so those things are the components. If you wanted to get it, you may easily get it from KC. Yes, if you just type KC, when you put $, you will be getting all the components, whichever the one you wanted, you can execute it. See, this is the total sum of squares I'm finding. Okay, so in the similar way, you may get it. Then the KC centers, so what are all the, because using the nearest neighborhood only the classification would be done. Yeah? So that is the one we are finding with the centers. So which are all the centers in each classification with respect to the sepal length and sepal width and all. And then what is the size of that? Right? 3 classification we had, out of which 62 will be one classification, 38 are there in the second classification, and 50 data are there in the third classification. And now we are going to do the tabling. Table, as I already mentioned you, it will be giving you the frequency kind of a table that in every classification, how many values are there. Okay, and what are all the species are presented. That is the one it is given in the table. Now I'll just show it to you the clustering. See, I have given 3, right? Anyway, it is a scatter plot, but it is giving a 3 different colors, you know. That is actually the cluster here. Okay, so it will be classified according to the total, the sum of squares and all. So if you wanted to find out where exactly, you know that the clustering actually is going to be created with respect to its centroid. Do you know about the centroid? It depends on the center point. The center point should collect as many as the points which is very similar to the particular classification. Okay, so if you wanted to see where exactly the centroid, next one only I have used like K centers. Are you able to see this? I'm just zooming it, this one. See, look at it. I have the points which are there in green color, right? And then some black and some red or pink. Okay, out of which I'm just pointing that what is its centroid. Okay, the centroid is only actually calculated through the sum of squares between us, all factors we were looked into, you know, making use of that only this particular centroid has been formed, right? See, the centroid is not here. Here the centroid is not here. Why it is specifically here? Because this one only will be collecting all its variety. Okay, so this is the visualization of the K-means cluster. Okay, so anybody have any doubt? I think no. Right. This is about the clustering, where I have already given you the coding part of it and the same output I got it. Yeah, in the output, I just wanted to mention you one more beautiful one, just for the good visualization. PCH is 8 and CEX is 2, you know. the PCH is giving you the different shape of the center. Okay, so here I have taken 8, so it is kind of asterisk. Okay, and what I have executed here, I have given PCH is 10, right? For 10, our symbol would be, right? Point would be like plus with O. Okay, so for every different PCH, you will be getting a different symbol of the shape of the point. Okay, and the CEX is 12 means it will be the size. Okay, so if you wanted to give it CEX is 5 or 10, your point will be more bigger. Okay, see, look at it. Okay, these are the some more essence of particular points function. You can nicely visualize. Next is a hierarchical clustering. So this is also in another clustering where hclust is the function we are going to using it. Okay, so I'll quickly execute it this one. So here hclust, the same iris dataset I have chosen, and plotting of that one also given. Okay, yeah. So this is the one. Here we have given a different method. Okay, so method you can just like search it here in hclust. You will be having the overall description of whatever the components are there and what are all the availability are there. All those things will be explicitly given. You can understand, and whatever way you wanted to execute it, that way you can instruct it. Okay, so here it is totally, the method is totally taken from the average. There is, it is one of the method. Okay, that is also available. Simple is a method. So many methods are available. So here I have taken average as a method. Okay, so hclust is a command using with the iris sample. We see here iris sample, the one I have taken only the distances. Okay, so that is what DIST we have given, and the plotting. I'll just show it to you in the Zoom. See, look at it. So this is the hierarchical clustering. So in which hierarchy it is? See, first one, if I'm taking it, in which hierarchy it isn't. See, this I have a 1, and this is a second step and the third step. Okay, so my hierarchy will be 3. Okay, and see here I have taken 1 and 2, 3, and then 4. So it depends on the order. You may easily understand that the particular data set in which hierarchy would be. So that we can easily understand. Okay, so this is with the hierarchical one. I think, yeah. So that is the one I have given, and I'll just take it just 5 more minutes to let you know about one more very simple concept, which is a very famous one right now. It is a time series. Okay, so time series data visualization, how it is going to be happen in R, and only one part I'll just let you know. Other things you can explore it after understanding the basics of it. Okay, so time series is nowadays is very emerging topic to get to know about what kind of things are involved. Okay, the time series has been classified in 2 ways. The one is a qualitative one and the quantitative one. Okay, so qualitative is there is no need of any history of data. Okay, it is just like that, a judgmental, right? We do not want any need of any history of the data set, but the quantitative we need a history, that because it quantitative is totally depends on the number, right? The value, right? So the quantitative forecasting is totally depends on the history of the data, and using history of the data, you may predict it that what would be the future. Okay, and what is the forecasting? I think the forecasting and all you know very well. That is, we are forecasting only the time series. Okay, so that is performing in many organizations, and nowadays in all the areas they are introducing the time series, and they are predicting that what would be the expectation of the consumer, all those things. Okay, so we have two methods. One is a qualitative and quantitative. Where the qualitative methods are used, suppose if you wanted to invent a new product, or if you wanted to apply one technology, or if you wanted to introduce one particular app. Okay, so those things and all, we really don't know, because that is a very new one, right? If it is a very new, I do not have any previous data exist. So making use of only an intuition and an experience, we need to go for a new product, and accordingly we are going to finding out if this my product, if the intuition would be, the experience would be this, then how my new product would be, right? So that is the way the qualitative methods will be involved. The quantitative is totally depends on the data. Okay, if you wanted to improve the product, the performance of product, you need to know about the existing product. So after knowing about the existing product, you may easily understand where is the factor which is affecting the affecting the execution, or for sales, or whatever it is. Okay, so you will be involving some mathematical techniques like the prediction, the linear model and all we were used, just for the prediction. So using with the existing data, we are going to predict that suppose if I'm fixing this particular factor, then I may increase the sales of particular product, like that and all. You may be doing it with the quantitative methods. So that is actually happening in the time series forecasting. So we have a different classifications are there. One is what is that? The time series components. We have trend, cyclic component, a seasonal one, and irregular. These are the different components exist. And I'm just telling you what is mean by a trend component. The trend means only it should be in an upward direction. Okay, it should be in an upward direction. So the trend means it is in a trending, right? So the trending means no falls would be happen. So if it is always the upward or in the downward moment uniformly, then we can say that particular forecasting is coming under the trend. Similarly, the cycle means one particular month or a year, the same nature will be repeated. Okay, so that is the example of cyclic component. And the seasonal means it is totally depends on, in winter season these are the products will be more moving, and summer means only these kind of products would be moving. So those things and all you can easily understand from the seasonal concept of forecasting. And regular means you can't predict it anything, like it can be in any other way. It depends on the war and the earthquake, or the many things are happening. No, so those things are all totally depends on irregular, right? Right. So here the forecasting types are given. So we have a moving average, simple exponential smoothing, and Holt's method, Winters method, and all available. And applicability also I have mentioned, whether it is a trend is needed or seasonality will be there, or it is a cyclic one. All those things I have mentioned. So quickly I'll tell you the coding part of it. Here, Mann-Kendall trend test is a very famous one in the forecasting, the time series forecasting. Okay, it is actually the non-parametric. The parameters, what is mean by parameter? Mean, standard deviation, median, and all. Those are all the parameters. Without calculating anything, any parameter, you can easily perform with a test. That the test is called the non-parametric test. That is coming under Mann-Kendall. So here the package is available for the Mann-Kendall is Mann-Kendall package. Okay, so then you need to get into the library of Mann-Kendall. Here itself I'm showing it to you. And pre-SIP GL is one inbuilt data set which is already there in the Kendall package. Okay, so that one I'm going to executing it. So this is my data. Okay, the data represents the annual precipitations of precipitations in the between the year 1900 to 1986. Okay, all the things have been given. So if you wanted to perform a Mann-Kendall forecasting on the particular data set, is you're doing Mann-Kendall is a command on the particular data set. It will be giving you like an p value and the tau value. Okay, So what is this tau? The tau is actually one distribution. Okay, so using the distribution, how the way the data has been scattered, accordingly the value will be getting, and very specifically the p-value. Okay, p-value is a probability value, right? So the probability value is how the way they are getting, you know, the p-value and all will be present in the hypothesis, because forecasting always be coming in the assumption, right? Today the rain will be there or not, that we don't know. It is totally an assumption, right? So there only the hypothesis testing we will be doing. Null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. If you are familiar with the statistic testing of hypothesis, I think you can easily understand this concept. Null hypothesis is always be nothing is going to be happen. Whatever you are saying, that is correct. Okay. Alternative hypothesis, really the challenging part is what can happen if the null hypothesis does not exist. Okay, so there is no trend present in the data, that is null. Okay, if there is a present in the data, then either it can be the positive trend or negative trend, but there should be some present in the trend. Okay, so that's the one we are going to check. Then accordingly, the result, how do we compare it here? The p-value it is giving us, no, with the data what we have given. If the p-value is, see, look at it, the common errors, the 10, I think you know about the level of significance. There is a level of significance, 10%, 5%, 1%. Okay, if the p-value is less than any one of it, then you may say that evidence that a trend present in the time series data exists. Okay, otherwise there is no trend present. So this is a Mann-Kendall method. Just like that, just 2-3 lines will give you the better understanding of what kind of a data set you have, whether we can get us any particular trend or not. All those things we can easily understand. So now using the plot, I'm just plotting it. Only the green, the blue, black lines would be coming. And if you wanted to get that what kind of a trend it would be, I need to go for a lines. Okay, lines, lowness of the time of the data set, with the y-axis same, and then a color of blue I need to have it. Okay, so this is about